Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mom Squad, the show where we talk all things parenting. I'm Maureen Kyle. So, have you looked at your credit card bills yet? According to NerdWallet, the average American family spends $823 on gifts for Christmas and also decor. So that really adds up when you factor in the food, any travel, any of the extras. I thought that average was pretty low compared to what I spent. So a few weeks ago, we talked about how to budget so you don't have big bills after the holidays. But if you didn't budget or you still overspent, guilty, our financial expert, Kathryn Bryan, is back. But before we jump into her advice, I want to introduce my guests and fellow Mom Squad members, Jenny Jordan and Danielle Wiggins. Thanks so much for sitting and chatting money with me. It's always a fun topic, especially right after the holidays.
Right.
Big question. Did you overspend?
Yes, sirree. I sure did. And I'm like, goodness gracious, I had a plan.
Yeah.
You get a new purse and nothing to put in it.
Yeah.
No money left.
You know? Exactly. Yes. Did you have a plan, Jenny? Did you try to budget, or were you like?
I'm not great at it, but I always have numbers in my head. I think for me, where I went way over, and I'm sure a lot of people felt this way, was the grocery store.
Come on.
We hosted a lot of the get-togethers, and when you're hosting, everyone brings stuff, but yet you're buying the big stuff and the paper plates and this and that, and it was like, the one I went to the grocery store, I said, I spent $300 and I had nothing to make for my actual family for dinner that night. I was like, well, so that was where it was really hard.
Jenny, we are twinsies because that's where I blew my budget as well.
Did you host?
We hosted a brunch on Christmas, and it was like, okay, and that was expensive. And then my cousin came in from California and just, hey, Merry Christmas. It's like, Merry Christmas. We would love to see you. Okay, so we brought her family and we brought everybody in to see them. And so I'm like, okay, everybody's coming to my house. Gotta have some food.
Right.
Budget broke.
Yeah, same. We we host. And we've hosted for years. I should know this. NerdWallet had another figure that anybody who hosts, that bill just for hosting is over $1,000.
Yes.
So you got to budget that in is like $1,000, which I never budget in because I'm thinking gifts and I'm like leaving a little extra for like the unexpected gifts.
Right.
But yeah, then that's what we ran into was, okay, I had Christmas dinner figured out, but my sister was in for, days before. So I'm getting together with family, outside of that. And then, I got sucked in, like we talked about weeks ago, in case you missed it, the emotional spending.
Yes.
Where I ended up at, one of those discount stores. I won't name names, but, you find, like I found, like, cupcake decor, like little things that would go on top of cupcakes, or like napkins that were really pretty. And I'm, what's $10, $12 here or there? All of that adds up.
Right.
The gift wrapping, the fresh greenery that I decorated the mantle with, all of that really added up. And so the budget was blown.
And I have to remember, I'm thinking about this for next year. It's called Christmas vacation for a reason, because I spent probably what I would on a vacation with my kids. We were at the roller rink, we were at the jump yard, we met friends at the Scene 75. We, they ate me out of snacks. It was like summertime. I was like, I forgot. I gotta, all the snacks that they don't eat when they're at school, but they're eating at home. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to remember that we're doing all these little extra things too, to budget that in.
And I was doing all the math in my head because it is like, okay, so this year, all right, next year I need to have this amount of money just so that I'm not in the same position in January of 2024.
We're getting a recording of this because we're going to have to replay it in November, because I don't know about you guys. I even put, the empty boxes away for the, where I keep the decorations year round. I couldn't even remember where I put the empty boxes from the month before. I'm like, did we put those in the attic or the basement? It's like you forget so quickly about all of these little details. Then, come maybe even October, if you're really on top of things, when you start to purchase all of those holiday items and you're setting that budget, you forget all of these little things that add up. Or even we ended up ordering out a lot because it was like, well, I can't cook. I'm already cooking for Christmas. Oh, just order something. And that's where it really started to
I'm going to tell you how bad it is for me. I had planned. I said, okay, I'm going to make a plan because I'm going to clean up on the Christmas clearance. With all of the decorations. Well, there's no money for that. And so it's just like, okay, nope, I can't spend here when I had wanted to plan because I've already spent that money on something else.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I know that in previous segments, or even you might see it all the time where it's like, okay, well, don't buy this now, but after the holidays, buy clothing. And I think, oh, okay, great. I'm not going to buy the kids clothing now. I'll wait until the after holiday sales. And I'm like, ugh. No. Tank is empty. Like,
exactly.
But then I'm going, oh, well, I'll just put it on the card.
Right.
And whatever, we'll figure it out later. So I think we really need this advice today.
We do.
Okay, we do need this advice.
I'm ready.
So if you were with us a couple of weeks ago, you met Kathryn Bryan. We're bringing her back. Kathryn Bryan with Skylight Financial Group has advice if you're feeling like you need to go on a debt diet. Here we are after January 1st. Turns out we did overspend maybe. So I think a lot of people think, okay, top New Year's resolution, I have to save money. I have to get out of that debt. And so when it's piled on like that, and maybe you're starting from, from not much savings and credit card debt and then all the other debt that we have in life, how do you even start to approach making that budget and figuring out how to slowly increase that savings?
Yeah, the first thing I always say is give yourself a little grace and take a deep breath because everybody does it and it always happens. So the first thing that I always say is this is a great time in January to really evaluate your budget. And most people budget month to month. And what we recommend is that you budget over a year. And so it's a great time to look at really what did you spend over the holidays to figure out, oh, what do I really need to budget now for next year so I don't end up in the exact same spot every single January. When we look at our annual budget, includes things that maybe come in semi-annually, like auto insurance or home insurance payments sometimes. It could be your vacations. It could be, going to Cedar Point or some of those amusement parks. All the things that you like to do and you do on an annual basis, that's a really great time to really look at the entire year and budget every single month for all those activities.
I've heard people, we always hear those stories of, I sold my car and I took the bus for a year and I was able to climb out of $60,000 debt, which is not attainable for a lot of people. But I always hear about these debt diets, and some of them are extreme, like any diet. Some of them are not so extreme. Is there a debt diet that you would recommend?
I always say try not to use credit cards as much as possible. And if you have to use credit cards, use the lower interest ones for sure. Those department credit cards, the department store credit cards tend to have the highest interest rates. So we want to make sure that we're not really having a lot of those if we have any of them. Again, it's going back to doing the credit cards and paying off the highest interest rates first, and then really building a strategy to do that. Other debt diets are to cut up the credit cards and just have one credit card for emergencies, which is really difficult for most people to do. But when they find that there's extra dollars in their savings, they do a much better job.
Yeah. Thinking back to the credit cards. So I've also heard people say, well, I use it for all of the rewards, and they kind of get sucked into, well, I earn cash back or I earn, rewards toward a store that I go to all the time. Are those smart to use, or do we get tricked into spending because we're like, oh, well, we're earning money or we're earning, groceries or something?
Yeah, it is kind of that circular thing where if you're paying off your credit card every single month and you're earning those rewards, then that's how the system works well. But for most people, we put money on the credit card, we're getting the rewards, but then we have this interest rate of 12, 15, 25% that we're paying on the balance still. And so if we're continuing to pay that interest, the rewards really aren't going to pay for themselves.
Do you recommend, I've also heard of maybe taking all of your credit card, like if you have 5 different credit cards, putting that debt onto just one of them, and maybe it is the lower interest one. Is that a smart move, or we get overloaded?
Yeah, it depends. So it is typically nice to consolidate into one card as long as the interest rate is low. The only other thing you need to look out are for any kind of fees associated with moving those cards or transferring those balances. But if we can get that interest rate pretty low to zero even for 36 months, we can really develop some pretty good plans on how to how to pay those off faster.
Yeah, I've also heard of people trying to, and I've done it too, when it's really assessing needs versus wants. Whenever you're about to buy something, you talk to yourself about, is this a need or is it a want? But with the cost of everyday items going up so much, I mean, those lines are blurring. That is becoming a more and more gray area, because now you're thinking, oh, do I really need this? It might be a need that you're thinking I'm gonna skimp on. Yeah. How would you recommend taking a look at whatever it is, whether it's an item for your children, whether it's an item for your household, and really assessing need versus want?
Yeah, it's different for every family, but the way I look at needs, our needs are for living. It is to keep a roof over your head, to keep food on the table, and clothing on your body, and medical needs if you need them. Anything above and beyond that really isn't a true need, although we might think it is. So for instance, cell phones are probably more of a need now than they were 40 years ago when it was just a want. So when we look at those things, you really have to figure out for your family what is really the need. And with cost of gas increasing, cost of groceries going up with inflation, people are realizing quickly what is really a need and what is really a want.
And people get really frustrated too with the cost of everything going up and stock market getting hit. Then their 401k or their investments are starting to shrink. And so then there's the question of, should I be putting my money into my 401k, or should I be using that to pay for things like gas, groceries, and other kinds of needs? What do you think?
It just depends. For every family, it's going to be different. And it's based off of age, it's based off of your expenses and your needs, it's going to be based off of income, and really what's important to you, right? So when we look at that, and when I look at that with my clients, it really has to be a customized strategy. So I would say, one, go find a professional if you can, to help you navigate, how to pay off the debt, how to build a budget, and then realize from there how much you should be putting into investments. The younger we are, the more likely we are able to put money into the market and not have to worry so much about the volatility that we're in today. But that's not always true, because a lot of young professionals today really want to retire earlier.
Right.
And so, it really has to be customized to what's important to them. And that will really determine if they should put less in their 401k now and use those dollars for some of the other.
That's interesting, because I feel like the advice has always been, oh, don't worry, don't panic, because you're buying stocks at a low rate now when the market is down. Just keep pumping money in, and don't worry about it if you're not retiring in the next 10 years. But you say that could be subjective? It
could be subjective. I have a lot of young professionals who don't feel comfortable being real aggressive in the market just because they're younger. It is true that because you're younger, you have more time for that to happen. But if you want to retire at 55 instead of 65 or 70, well, that decreases that aggressiveness that maybe you're willing to take. And it really has to do with your short and long-term goals. So if I don't want to retire until I'm 70, but my short-term goal is to go buy a second house or go buy my first house, well, that might be where all of my effort goes right now versus putting it into the stock market. So everybody's is a little different. Emotional buying and investor emotions really do play a part, though, so that if you have a lot of cash on the sideline, or if you're invested, when something goes on sale at a store and I want to go buy it, I go buy it because I know I'm saving dollars. Right. But it's a lot different with the stock market, where people say, oh, it just went down, which means that everything went on sale, really. Yeah. But instead of taking cash and putting it in, I'm going to either take my cash out or I'm going to hold it on the sideline. So we miss a lot of the gains then.
Yeah, you mentioned people who are looking to buy that first home or that second home. We've seen the interest rate really go up over the last year. Is that a smart investment? And how do you start to really save up for that down payment, and then considering that the interest rates are high?
Yeah, with the interest rates going up, everyone is more concerned about it. If you're younger and you're really looking, and this is going to be a house that you're going to be in for 5 or 10 years, then interest rates are really not going to have a huge impact on what you want to do. You don't want to make your lifestyle be dictated by the interest rate. There may be opportunities to refinance in the future. There may be opportunities when you go to buy another house to have lower interest rates. So you don't want that to dictate. But if you haven't saved enough and you find that you might be house poor when we look at your budget, meaning all of my income is going towards the mortgage and taxes of this house and the insurance, then we need to pull back a little bit and say, really, what can you afford and how much should you really be saving to put down?
Interesting. All of this is a lot of big picture, can feel very overwhelming.
Yes.
And in this day and age, when there's an app for everything on your phone, sometimes that feels a little bit more attainable for people to see, you know, an app chart out. Here's what I'm saving. Here's how much I'm putting in. Do you have any favorite apps or websites that help people stick to that budget and see the savings firsthand daily?
I really like Betterment. They do a really nice job, and Acorn also has some apps that you can use, and that just allows you to see what your budget is. The other place to go is your bank. A lot of banks have at the end of the year a summary of where you've spent your money and what you've done, and that's kind of a reality check for everybody of like, oh, how much did I spend on entertainment versus, you know, groceries. So those are great places to go.
Do you notice, is there a trend where people have been spending over the past few years, where we have had lower interest rates on loans and you know, sort of a little bit of the pandemic spending? Have people been spending a lot more on the extras, or have you noticed, have we been saving a lot more?
Yeah, I mean, since the pandemic, a lot of people have saved a lot because they haven't traveled and done a lot of things. But this year, I would say it's kind of bounced back, where we're seeing more traditional spending of going on vacations and doing some of the bigger ticket items. Housing and buying a house was real big in the last few years. As interest rates start to go up, we'll start to see that trend probably slow down a bit.
What are some signs that somebody might need a financial planner and to really sit down with somebody who can look at their finances and be that third party in the relationship?
I always say it's time and energy, and then want to know, an education. So anybody that's sitting there saying like, I just don't know if I should do this, or what is the best way to put money into my 401k, or what are my options, or how do I even bring all of the pieces of my finances together, from insurances, investments, my benefits at work, my budget, debt payoff, all that stuff. That's when you really should go see a financial planner. And there's no age. I mean, I have clients that are, you know, 21 all the way up to 70. So there's no specific age that dictates that.
Yeah. And before I let you go too, I've done stories in the past, and I thought this was a really interesting perspective about how the woman in the relationship, whatever that may be, or maybe a single woman, should get more involved in the financial planning process and planning for the future. And there's some statistics that show typically like a husband would go and do the financial planning, but it's very important for women to step up, because, I mean, this sounds a little morbid, but they do sometimes outlive the husband and then don't know where they are financially. Would you say, I want to get your take on that, getting for women to have more empowerment in their finances?
It's true. Women tend to outlive men. And I would say that trend is changing. More and more women are taking a hold of their finances and becoming more educated about them, and they want to be more educated about them. But there is still a lot of women that say, nope, I'm not good at math, I don't want to deal with it. What I always tell couples is, I don't care who makes the decisions or who runs the finances, but you always want to know in general what's happening. So whether you're the husband or the wife and you are not the decision maker financially, you should always have some kind of idea of where your finances are at, who the financial professional is, and really, are you on track for all the goals?
Yeah, that could be a great goal. I know personally, even in my own relationship, I'm not the one meeting with the financial planner. So it's a good goal for maybe this year to educate yourself on where you stand financially. Again, a really special thank you to Kathryn Bryan, much needed advice. And she brought up a lot of different topics. So hopefully one resonated with you. And I want to start out by asking my friends here, Jenny and Danielle, so have you ever migrated all of the credit card debt over to just one credit card or one way of paying?
We did that. My husband and I, we took all of our credit card debt, and my brother is like a financial guru. So we met with him. We said, hey, we did this amount of debt. We want to pay it off. And I guess my problem was I was paying so much on each card that it's like, I don't have any money left at the end of the month. And he's like, you need to do this one time. You know, he said, take an equity loan and put it all on the equity. Now, many money experts say don't do that, because if you don't change your spending habits, then you have the equity loan over here, and yes, you have a lower interest rate than that. So say your cards are like 15%, the store cards are like 20. I saw one store card, my favorite one, is almost 30% interest rate. Yes,
wow.
29.99. I was like, oh my goodness, I got to pay this off.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get the interest rate on the equity loan, and then that's what we did. And so I think we got like 5 or 6%. So you go from 20 to 5 or 6. But so right now, the problem is just like I have that financial person in my mind. Like, that's why I tell you, don't do the equity loan, switch it, because if you don't stop the spending on the credit card, then you have the equity loan over here, and then you just run up your credit cards again. So, and they also say don't shut down your cards all at once. So every 6 months, so it doesn't hurt your credit score. So this month is I'm gonna stop one card, like, cut that one off, and really being intentional. I think January is the month of no for me. Like, no, we can't do that. No, I'm sorry. We can't come. No, I'm sorry. I just can't do that. I can't contribute. And it hurts so much. It goes to that emotional spending, because you're like, I want to participate in this birthday party. I want to do this.
Oh, yeah.
But no, because I keep thinking, like, I don't want to get those credit cards up again, because we know we put it on the equity loan there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then
I've consolidated to one card before, used the 0% for APR for 6 months and stuff, and it does help, especially when you have those a few little cards that you can just pay off right away. But and what helps me is the mindset that I know in 3 months I have to pay it off, or else you're gonna get hit with that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a mind game for me. It's like, if I know I have to, then I'm like, which really, if I could just do that for anything.
Right.
Because when you say 30% off, I'm thinking, well, wait, I buy stuff on sale because it's 30% APR, you know what I mean? Interest. Well, that's not really a sale then.
Yeah. Right. And it's interesting because, you can also start moving cards around, and then you continue to pay that balance transfer fee. So you wonder, like, am I, making a wise decision there? So you got to watch that as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never migrated everything over. I always keep and Kathryn said, don't do this, where you have like 2 or 3 cards where you're like, okay, well, I know how much is on this one, and I know how much is on this one. But my mom, I mean, right from the start, in college, when they're signing you up for a credit card, and then it's like, well, I might as well, and I get a free T-shirt, like, I don't know if they do that anymore, but my mom said, you have to pay it off every month. It is not free money, don't rack it up, pay it off every month. So I kind of have like that in my mind of like, okay, I know how much I can spend with that and then pay it off, but sometimes that goes over, like around Christmas. And so my second point that I want to bring up here, like a goal of paying yourself first that she brings up, like you should always pay yourself first. That's always one of those, okay, this year I'm going to pay myself first. I'm going to put money in savings. I'm going to save X amount, but I feel like I'm always like paying what I've already spent.
Does retirement count? Because I'm like, okay, I guess I'm paying myself first, because that automatically comes out.
Yeah,
I mean, really my thing is I have mine set up that automatically goes to savings. Like so much of my paycheck automatically goes to savings. Should probably be more than what it is, but at least that's a way that I build our savings up, because if I don't see it.
Yes, that's the best way. It is.
So same sort of thing. It's like, oh, 401k gets taken out before you even see it. So, whatever, 401bs.
Yeah, that's great advice.
This year we have a big vacation plan. I think I said this in another mom squad, that my brother is renewing his vows with his wife. And so they're going to Mexico to do that. And we're like, okay. And they're like, oh, you got to bring the whole family. I'm like, bring the kids too? And I just was like, ching, 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 ching. And so, when you talk about paying yourself, it's like, well, I'm going to not just wait till the end and go, bam, have to drop all this money for a vacation in Mexico for 4 people that we've never ever took. I've never even left the country. So it's like, okay, well, let me budget, because it's in this month. How many months do I have? And so for me, paying myself and paying is so that, starting that payment plan, we do have that option to do that. So that's what I'm trying to do, so that 2 years from now, I'm not still paying for this vacation.
True, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I've also heard the advice too, if you know of like a big event, like a wedding or birthdays. Gosh, I can't remember where I heard this advice of like, you look at your calendar, and now's a good time in January when you have the fresh calendar, and take a look at everybody's birthdays and kind of have those circled on the calendar so that you know when you're going to be spending, especially if it's somebody that you spend a lot on, like you have that circled, and you can budget that way and kind of always have that in mind of like, okay, this month I know I'm going to end up spending a lot more because it's so-and-so's birthday, or we have this event, or we have this vacation.
Right.
This is all a lot of organization. Do you use any apps or any systems to like?
Well, I have tried a few things. You can learn from my mistakes. You can take, be better. Take my advice. Don't live. What is it? Well, anyways.
But do as I say, not as I do.
Do as I say. The envelope system, I have tried several times. And in fact, I probably have spent money on buying a wallet that has the envelopes. And stuff. And you get, so the idea of that is you get the cash out, and it's like, this is how much I have for groceries, you budget, and when the money's gone, the money's gone, right? So there's no card to swipe, there's no, you're just swiping your debit card and kind of just keeping it in your head. It is a great concept. However, in the world we live, like I barely ever have cash ever.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into the gas station and give them money.
Cash. I know.
You have to do that.
And it's like now I just have my phone and I'm just using my and my husband's like, nope, not doing it. So you have to be on board, with he would have to get on board with that as well. And so that didn't work for us, but I think it's worth trying different things to see, okay, maybe it's a little of this and a little of that that would be helpful.
Yeah, I used an app that was YNAB, YNAB. I'm blanking on what it stands for.
You need a budget.
You need a budget. That's it. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes.
This is why I keep Jenny around. And it mimics the envelope system. And it's supposed to be then like, let's say you budgeted, and I mean, this is for a family, maybe not realistic, but like $300 for groceries, whatever. And then if you only use 250, then that 50 is supposed to carry over. So then or whatever. So it was a lot of that. It helped me think about things a lot more, and probably like your envelope system. For some reason I kept like, I don't know, I had to reset it a couple of times, but it at least made me think.
Yeah.
And then I had another friend say that Minted, and YNAB is, you have to pay a fee to have the app, but then she uses Minted's app, which is free, but it seemed like a lot more math. So if you are math oriented, good for you. I need your advice, because I am like, I don't know, just like, why aren't these numbers not adding up for me? But there are so many apps, like even if you just Google, like Kathryn mentioned Acorn and some of those that are good for you, like find one that works for you, because I mean, if it's all on your phone and you're paying cash on your phone, you know what I mean? Like we are in an antiquated system where it's like, you can't really, it's unrealistic to use cash. In some places now, post-COVID,
they won't even take the cash.
They won't take cash. Yeah, it's all like hands-free payments.
Right.
So, so I mean, an app might be something that can keep you on track.
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is just that you do have to get organized.
Yes.
And you have to, it's a thought process, right? Like it isn't, we're not able to just go swipe all day. You know what I mean? And so, January is a great time to go ahead and look, okay, how much do we need for vacation? How much do we need for next Christmas? And just keeping that in mind can at least keep you on track for a couple months, I hope.
Yeah.
The big thing that was helpful for my family is money dates. And even if you're a single mom, you have a money date with yourself. And basically it's checking in, hopefully weekly. Sometimes we get off, but when we just sit down and we talk about what's coming in, what's going out, and I update the budget. And I said, hey, this is what, because I'm just the facts and figures person. And I love it. I mean, I'm just the administrator, and my husband's just like, what? Where's it going? Okay, I'm fine. Yeah. And so, and so I say, this is where this is going, this is where that, what do you think? And we have to communicate about that. And some decisions that I would make, it's like, he adds something and I go, oh, because that's how I found out that I was paying way too much on credit cards, and then coming to the end like, we don't have any money for food. Like, what are we going to do? Got to use a credit card again. He's like, stop paying so much here. Yes. And so that money day, really talking about it, makes you think about it and makes you realize what you really have and what you don't.
Yeah.
Danielle and Chris are couples goals over here.
For sure.
I'm like,
It makes us talk. I I tell you, because
I'm not sure what if I tell my husband all the time, if I die, like, do you even know our account password? Do you even know like how much we pay for?
He doesn't, but you know, it's like I try to go. Okay, well, you know,
we have
sometimes I don't want him to know how much dance classes cost.
Right.
I know. Sometimes I'm the one paying for it. I don't even know like dance. I mean, I don't know how much dance costs.
So you should have a money date with
money
yourself, Maureen.
I do. Now you guys have all learned my weakness. You're welcome. So no, but and even before we started this episode, we were all sitting here talking about some of the other very important parenting money topics about like how do you save for kids' college and how do you save for this and what's the right move when you have to make a big purchase. So I think we have a lot more financial issues to talk about throughout 2023. So we'll definitely do all of that in upcoming episodes. But thank you to Jenny and Danielle for joining me today. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Now, next week on Mom Squad, do you have a toddler in the house? Potty training, one of the hardest milestones to tackle. I've done it 3 times. It was the worst. But we have some expert advice. So we are going to get you on the right track this year. See you next time here on Mom Squad.